It has been a bit of a rough ride for a high-profile Nova Scotia politician at a Remembrance Day event on Tuesday. Chris d'Entremont, the longtime Conservative MP who crossed the floor to join the Carney Liberals last week, attended the Legion ceremony in Annapolis Royal. When he rose to lay a wreath at the front of the hall, several people booed, sparking some grumbles from other members in the audience. Several people expressed a similar sentiment on social media, but the Legion president took it a step further, issuing a statement. It reads in part, "To those that booed Christopher d'Entremont at the service, we say shame on you. You have ruined the day that we remember our fathers, sons, daughters, and grandparents that paid the ultimate sacrifice for the very thing you seem entitled to, the right to give your opinion. There is a time and place for political discord. Everyone has a right to voice their opinion. A Remembrance Day is not one of those times or places." And d'Entremont declined to speak with CTV's Power Play about the matter last night.
Well, welcome back to Bakes on Things, the first sip. I don't even have my coffee here on a Friday yet, but we have to talk about this one. You just saw what happened there. And listen, there are moments in a country's political life that feel small on the surface, but are actually quite seismic in reality. And what happened in Annapolis Royal, Nova Scotia on Tuesday, the booing of Chris d'Entremont at a Remembrance Day ceremony, is exactly that. That's exactly what that was. Not because Canadians suddenly forgot how to behave at a solemn event like Remembrance Day. Not because anyone wanted to overshadow the actual sacrifice of our veterans. No, it actually mattered because it was the first national crack of pure, unfiltered frustration reaching the surface after one of the dirtiest political maneuvers that we've seen in years in this country. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things, the first sip for your Friday. I hope your day has started out great. Look, let's be clear right from the start of this episode. I am not here to justify booing at a Remembrance Day ceremony. The Legion president, in my opinion, is right. That isn't the venue for political fury. That is sacred ground. But you cannot look at what happened without understanding why Canadians snapped in this moment. You cannot wag your finger at the reaction while pretending the betrayal that caused this reaction simply does not exist, because it absolutely does. Chris d'Entremont crossed the floor. A Conservative MP who squeaked into office by just 533 votes. A razor thin margin by our standards that only exists because thousands of his neighbors saw Conservative beside his name and trusted that was the mandate he would carry forth to Ottawa. Not Liberal, not Mark Carney's agenda, not a grab bag of opportunism wrapped in self-pity about not feeling aligned with Pierre anymore. They voted for a party, for a platform, and for a direction that they believed in as the constituents of his riding. And he used their trust like a bargaining chip. And let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't some emotional revelation of Chris's after deep reflection like he wants you to believe, despite the spin on CTV and CBC and all the usual liberal-friendly outlets. No, that's not what happened. This was orchestrated. This was planned. This was the Prime Minister's office fishing for a defection from months ago, whispering promises, dangling carrots, trying to sabotage Parliament when the budget backlash got too hot. And right on cue, the snake arrived. d'Entremont delivered. A Conservative MP since 2019 suddenly discovering a better path forward because of a budget that sent the country into a tailspin, which it's really starting to do as we poke more holes into it. Please. Canadians can smell a rotten deal from a mile away, and they can smell a snake too. And here's the problem. d'Entremont still refuses to actually talk to anyone about this. Repeated requests for comment from CTV, from local reporters, from constituents who voted for him are going ignored. He wants the applause for his brave decision to cross the floor, but not a single moment of accountability for the people who put him in that job in the first place. He wants the spotlight when it's comfortable and silence when it's not. And that silence is exactly what sparks incidents like the one that we saw on Remembrance Day on Tuesday. Make no mistake, d'Entremont's political career will end with this term. Because when Canadians don't have answers, they react. And in Annapolis Royale, that reaction spilled out of the crowd, even in a space where people normally hold everything inside and know to do so. That is not a failure of Canadians. That is a failure of our leadership. That is a failure of honesty. That is a failure of respect from the man who betrayed the very voters he now wants to lecture about civility. Let me say all of this again for anyone who's about to jump into the comments, in particular liberals, who wants to twist this on me. Remembrance Day is sacred. The wreath laying moment is sacred. Veterans deserve the silence, the respect, and the unity. We should never bring partisan anger into a moment like that. But, and this is the part the liberals, the media, and D'Entremont himself refuse to acknowledge, when people feel ignored, when they feel deceived, when they feel manipulated, their frustration doesn't disappear just because the calendar says November 11th. It follows them. It boils. And it sometimes leaks out, even if inappropriately. And blaming Canadians for the reaction while ignoring the cause of that reaction is the laziest, most dishonest political spin imaginable. If you want to boo Chris D'Entremont, and many Canadians, including myself, absolutely do, then do it loud and do it proud. Do it when he walks to his car, though, after the ceremony. Do it when he shows up at the Tim Hortons drive-thru. Do it at town halls, debates, community events, Chamber of Commerce meetings, or even do it when he's trying to take a photo op with the very people he betrayed. You want to make your point? Absolutely make your point, Canada. I know you're frustrated. But just do it in a place where the only thing being honored is the truth. Because the truth is simple here. Canadians are exhausted. This is why this happened. They're tired. Tired of dirty politics. Tired of floor crossings that are nothing more than mini coups dressed up as conscience. Tired of liberal strategists trying to reverse engineer legitimacy, I should say, through media talking points. Tired of being told they're wrong to feel angry when they've been slapped in the face by their own elected representative when they just wanted that party elected. And the liberals, who are desperately trying to spin all of this as some type of positive, as something healthy for Canada because he supposedly supports the Liberals, as some noble shift in the political landscape, need to understand that this is not a win in any way. This is not momentum. This is not evidence of a country embracing Mark Carney's direction and crossing the floor as voters. This is a flashing red warning light. Because when voters feel that their mandate has been hijacked, they don't forget this. They don't forgive this either, and they definitely don't sit quietly. Chris D'Entremont can avoid reporters and his constituents all he wants. The Liberals can continue pretending this is some type of heroic act for him to cross the floor. The media can keep pumping out headlines that support the Liberals about misaligned ideals and finding a better path and Pierre's bad. But the people of Acadianapolis know exactly what happened here. They know exactly what this is. And so does the rest of Canada. What happened in that Legion Hall wasn't about respecting veterans. It was a message. Raw, emotional, imperfect for sure, but unmistakable. Canadians are done being played. That's it. They're done being talked down to. And they're done watching their democracy get picked apart, get manipulated for political convenience. They're just done. And I don't blame a single one of you for it. If the Liberals want to avoid more moments like this, the answer is simple. Stop treating Canadians like pawns. Stop orchestrating defections in back rooms. Stop relying on media spin to shield your terrible policy decisions. And start actually listening to the people whose lives you claim to want to improve, but yet never take a step forward in doing so. Because Canadians have found their voice again. And if Chris D'Entremont didn't hear it on Tuesday, trust me, he's gonna hear it. He'll hear it everywhere he goes from now on. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things, the first sip for your Friday. We'll be back this afternoon, of course, at 3:45 for our last word of your week. And then don't forget to join us tomorrow morning for the weekend wrap. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful start to your weekend and a great end to your Friday. We'll see you this afternoon.